Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisholm, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com.
Hey guys, John Chisholm. We have a great show lined up for you today, and I'm very excited to get there. But before we do, I wanted to take just a moment or two to remind you of some of the great things going on around here at Nashville Christian Songwriters. The first thing is that we've just recently launched NCS membership. Now, what is NCS membership? Why should you care? And why should you join? Well, first of all, let me tell you that we're offering to you at a very low price top shelf information and inspiration to help you become the songwriter that you were born to be. We're going to be offering fresh monthly content, audio and video that will it's not going to be available anywhere else. We're giving away song critiques. We're giving you connection with writers around the world, community forums, and one of the things I'm most excited about is we are giving our members free quarterly masterclasses. Our very first one is July 22nd with yours truly and David Baroni on modern hymn writing. If you're interested in writing songs that are going to last for the next 100 or 200 or 300 years, you need to be in on this class. If you're not a member, it's going to cost $49, but if you're a member, it's absolutely free, and it's one of 4 per year that we're going to be offering, and that's at least $100 value per masterclass. So for the low introductory price of $149 for your first year in NCS membership, you're actually getting over a $400 value, not to mention the free song critiques and all the other benefits of being an NCS member. So go to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com today and join up for the low introductory price of $149, and it will be going up to the regular price of $199 in the very near future. So act now, go join today, and jump in on this thing. The next thing I wanted you to do is go ahead and mark on your calendar October 5 and 6 this fall. We're launching our very first NCS annual Songwriters Conference, and it's called Empower Your Songwriting Dreams. We're already lining up our headlining talent. We're going to have great artists like you've been hearing on our podcast. You're going to meet great industry personnel up close and personal, people like we've been introducing on our podcast. I'll be there. I'll be teaching. We're going to have the whole NCS team there available to talk with you, to meet with you, to be up close and personal. We're launching the registration on July 11th, so be sure and check that out and all of the other great things happening here at Nashville Christian Songwriters. And now on with today's podcast.
Welcome to the Song Revolution podcast. I'm John Chisholm for Nashville Christian Songwriters. We're so glad that you're here today to join us for this very, very special episode with live music producer Tom Jackson. Tom is an old friend of mine from the Star Song days when we were working with people like Phillips, Craig and Dean, and Twyla Paris, and a bunch of other great folks. And it's great to connect with Tom again on this podcast. Tom has worked with Taylor Swift, Shawn, Mendez, LeCrae, Thompson Square, the band Perry, Jars of Clay, Jordan Sparks, Francesca, Battistelli, Jaci, Velasquez, of course, Phillips, Craig and Dean, Jason, Crabb, Casting Crowns, Newsong, and so many more. Now, the day that we did this recording, I did some stupid things with our technical stuff, and the sound is just a little bit fuzzy for just a minute or two, but if you'll hang in there just through the little introductions that I made for Tom and then get into the meat of the program, I toned it down, I turned the little knob, and I think I got it to where it's acceptable. But hey, you know what? I'm just providing content, and once we grow, I'm going to hire a full-time producer for this thing. So anyway, thank you for your understanding, and I know if you're a singer-songwriter, a worship leader, or a performer of any type, you are going to get a lot out of this show with live music producer Tom Jackson. We're going to join the show in progress.
Tom, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, we're glad, man. It's just awesome to see you again after a long time.
So, it's been a long time.
Yeah, we were just talking before we started about how long both you and I have been at this thing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
I think there's a lot to say for longevity, don't you?
There is. Yeah, well, Yeah, there is. Longevity is huge. It's a big key for artists and writers. It's not just having 3, 4, 5 years and then go away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, congratulations on your success and
thanks.
All the wonderful people you've worked with. And I'm excited about getting into your philosophy today. And because as I was saying to you earlier, I see so much overlap, so many things that resonate with me as I've been studying your videos. I'm already a better, I'm going to have such a better live show now after just watching your videos. And I don't even have a live show, but it's going to get better. We're going to start creating moments here on the podcast.
Nice.
But yeah, so cool. Well, tell us just a little bit about your background. You have worked with some of the best in the whole business and continue to do so. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this thing.
Long story short, I used to play, and on one of the tours I was doing, this was a few years ago, to say the least, I started seeing things from the audience's perspective, not from the musician's perspective only. In fact, one of the days, our drummer had, we were pulling into town. We were never famous, but we were playing quite a bit. And it was a Saturday afternoon. Our drummer hurt his arm, broke it. Couldn't get a new drummer in. We had a show that night. He played one-handed, and it was terrible. On stage as a musician, I thought they were going to start booing us because I'm looking at it from the musician standpoint. When we finished the song, we got a standing ovation.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I opened my eyes to what they were paying attention to, not what we on stage were paying attention to. And that just changed my whole thinking on shows. And since that day, I just helped artists get ready for tours, showcases, just get better as performers. I've been doing it for over 25 years.
Wow. So you work with artists, bands, and individual artists, and you work in rehearsal situations, getting them ready for their onstage tours.
That's it.
Right.
Getting ready to go out and do a showcase. A lot of showcases lately for record companies or booking agents or managers. And I'm actually working on putting together a singer-songwriter DVD series and book.
That's fantastic.
For singer-songwriters, the specifics. I have a book now, but it's a broad path. And if you understand concepts, I mean, it's really helpful. But I'm going to get into really individual specifics with the singer-songwriter one.
Great. Yeah, Tom's brought me his book today, Tom Jackson's Live Music Method, All Roads Lead to the Stage, your backstage pass to a successful music career. So it's a great book. I mean, this is like crazy big, thick, awesome 700-page tome.
430-page, but...
Wow, that's great, man. Got lots of graphics in it, stickman graphics. I love that. And just from knowing your work and knowing your videos, I'm sure this is chock full of things that are going to be helpful for our audience.
Oh yeah. It's helped. It's on buses. You know, a lot of stars have that on their bus. Their team reads it. I've sold thousands of those.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. Tell us just real quick, you've worked with people like Taylor Swift and some, crazy famous people. Are there any stories or anything you can share that have been like standout moments?
Well, the truth is, here's the story. I have to sign non-disclosure forms.
Oh, of course you do.
So yes, but can I tell them? No.
No. All right.
I've worked with probably... after a while you forget. But I've done this literally 25 years. I've probably done 150 Christian acts over the years, going back as far as the Imperials. For him, like you said, Phillips, Craig, and Dean. Singers, everybody on the planet still do to this day Winter Jam.
Awesome.
I've been with Newsong, who's still going.
Eddie Carswell.
Yeah. And heck, here's the perfect example of how performance and songwriting, they've got a new co-writing partner, Ted T. I think the material's gotten better in the last couple years. And then we went and worked on the show. And here's these guys. Here's a perfect example of and this goes to making a living as a Christian artist, the concept remains the same as a singer-songwriter. Here's guys, the youngest guy's 42, the oldest guy's 69.
Yeah.
They're playing to 13 to 18-year-old kids at Winter Jam, most of them. And because their show, their ministry, their moments are happening in their show, they're either number 1 or number 2 in merch sales out of 10 bands every night. Wow. Now, it's not about the merchandise. It means that connected with the people, what they were singing about, because people want to relive those moments. But anyway, still doing Winter Jam. Been doing that for 18 years since the beginning I was there. And then, I still work with a lot of mainstream acts. Probably more mainstream acts now than Christian acts at the moment.
Well, okay, so you can't tell us stories, but and that's okay. That's cool. But
I don't want to get sued.
No. We don't want you to get sued either. But it must be pretty phenomenal to know that your work is really impacting millions of people.
It's interesting, yeah.
And you use the same techniques with the mainstream as with the gospel Christian acts?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Has to do with, and I try to speak into the non-believer's life. I mean, I can tell you this. I mean, I must have told Taylor a dozen times that before the world was formed, God ordained her to be on stage and to use it for good. I think the two things that I can't communicate because it's hard, I've seen two people go berserk, meaning take off like crazy. Taylor being one, she was 17 when I got her, and Shawn Mendez when he was 15.
Great. Wow.
And just to see the momentum and all this happen and just be along for the ride it's been fascinating. And some of the stuff makes no sense. You know, in other words, there's artists that you think, oh my gosh, they're going to blow up, and they go away, and others. So you just got to look and say it might be God's providence.
Right.
You know, I don't know what else.
Yeah, I love what you said about Taylor, that before she was born, God ordained her, to be who she is and what she's doing. Yep. And there are all kinds of haters, even in the Christian world, that, are so mean-spirited. I think that's an oxymoron, Christian haters, right? Yep. But love her or not, she is crazy anointed, if you will, to be and do what she does, right?
She is, and she's a good Catholic girl. They're all trying to figure it out. We've had many talks, and I don't know where she's at. I've been with her since she really turned pop. Mm-hmm. But I did, about 3 tours with her, and but no. Everyone struggles with this stuff, and why would she have Need to Breathe on tour? And many others, Christian bands are her favorites. Wow! So she's again, I don't know where she's at this moment.
Right? Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that the other distinction I like to make is that in our Christian world, a lot of times people think if God has ordained something or called you to do something like be a Christian songwriter, then it just drops on your head, and that you don't really have to work with it. But what would you say to that?
Oh, crazy. It's crazy. It's real. You have to be relentless. In fact, I get asked all the time, because this doesn't sound weird. Well, how did you get to be successful? I guess people call me successful. So I say the first thing always is God's grace. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then the second is the human side is persistence. That's it. There's more talented people than I am. I just never gave up. And I didn't have a plan B. Yeah. I never had a plan B. Right. In fact, most people that I know that have plan Bs go to plan B when it gets tough. I was too stupid to not have a plan B. Right. So, but persistence, you got to work. You got to work. You got to work. You got to work on the right things too. Right. In this world of music, if you're an artist, maybe not a songwriter, singer-songwriter, songwriter only, and that's a whole nother animal. I'm sure you've talked about royalties and what's going on with the world of that. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, artists make money from their live show. That's where the money is generated from. But the irony is, It's the very last thing people pay attention to. The very last thing. They do all their social networking. They'll get their website up. They write the songs. They get their gear. They pray up. They do everything, and then they walk out on stage and wing it. And that's where the ministry comes. It's where the money comes. That's where you fulfill your calling. That's why I call it all roads lead to the stage. For a lot of artists, you do all this stuff so you can stand in front of people and bring life to them and make a living. And you don't rehearse that. And it's kind of like whacked. Somehow It's supposed to be spontaneous, or as we Christians would say, led by the Spirit. And we want both of those things, but winging it and spontaneity are two different things. Yeah, and a lot of people don't know the difference.
As are being led by the Spirit, and knowing what you're doing. I mean, you can be led by the Spirit. It's kind of like the pastors that I've worked with in the past. They didn't feel like the Holy Spirit could tell them what to preach on Sunday morning until Saturday night about 10 o'clock. And it's like, what?
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
I would start Monday, or I guess if I took a day off, Tuesday, and you can feel that being led.
Yeah, I mean, the Holy Spirit can speak a week ahead of time, right?
He can speak right on the spot. He can speak a month before.
Yeah. So over all these years that you've been doing this, you have developed a philosophy and a method. Yep. You really teach a method for creating moments. So can you give us a little overview? And then I have just some specific questions we can get into. But
sure. Well, first of all, when I say method to musicians, it kind of scares them a little bit, because I don't want you put in the box, man. It's got to be me. I got to be original. That's ridiculous. Goethe says, working within limits, mastery reveals itself. We all have limits. And so there are rules. There's rules on stage. There's rules in singing, songwriting. Now, rules are made to be broken, but if you understand those rules, then if you do something outside those rules intentionally, it's still going to accomplish what you want. But you got to know the rules first. So my method's fourfold. And I couldn't have taught this 30 years ago, but when I look back after working with literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artists, I probably worked with 200-300 artists in my 25 years. And I developed a method kind of unconsciously for the first 10 years. And it started with the idea of being an architect. You have to have a vision for your show. You have to have a vision when you walk out on stage. I imagine equating that to a songwriter. Sometimes when you write a song, and I've written a few, but it's not my world. But you start getting a vision for, whoa, this could touch people. Oh, you can see how it could move somebody. That's what I'm talking about when you go out on stage. You get a vision. It's like building a house. You build a house, the first thing you need is not the foundation. Everyone goes, the foundation. No, you need an architect. You need to know how big a house you want, where you want the house, all the above, what materials you want to put in it. What you walk out on stage, you need to know, at least get a vision for what you want to accomplish with your audience in each song, with each moment. I want to know how big, going back to the house, how big the rooms are going to be. And this just doesn't plop down on you. This is a process. Mm-hmm. I could be shaving and get an idea and go, oh, wait, that's a great idea. I could be driving in my car. I could be praying. Multiple places in our lives, God, I feel like, drops some things in our head. And I get a vision for and I get really excited then, because I start getting some energy towards, oh my gosh, I can see this happening in my head. So that's the huge part, because without vision, the people perish. I'm going to put a paraphrase: without vision, your show is going to be mediocre or average at best. Second part is the foundation. And the foundation are the things that we go through mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually before we walk out on the stage, and what our audience is feeling. What is going on in the room that is untold, unsaid, but you can feel it. You see somebody on stage. How many times have you seen somebody on stage? You go and they're nervous, and you start praying for them. Because it's like, God, help us people get it together, because they don't have confidence. They lack the confidence. They lack the authority. And so what we're preoccupied with their behavior, we're not even listening to the words of the music. And they think, as they stand up there that, oh, these words are beautiful, it's going to minister. But what we pay attention to is their lack of confidence or their fear, or
we feel it.
Yes, yeah, because audiences are ignorant when it comes to musical things. They don't understand this is a G-C chord with a Mixolydian scale. They know this, though. When someone's nervous, they relate because they get nervous. They don't write G-C and Mixolydian scales. So that's the thing they relate to. So I deal a lot with confidence, authority, taking risks, particularly in rehearsal. That's one of the most mind-boggling things to me when we go into rehearsal and someone's afraid to take a chance, and I'll stop and say, well, wait, if this idea doesn't work, guess what? We won't do it.
Yeah.
But let's try it, because that's really where the best ideas, really the most unique ideas come from. When you get this prompting, you have the vision, you get into rehearsal, and you get an idea, and it's like, whoa, wait, what if we? And it's not always in rehearsal. I remember coming to Taylor with there was a part of a song that sounded like a bell to me in the background. Anyways, if you look on the second or third tour that's on the DVDs, these big bells fall out of the sky and got these big mallets, and she hits them, and the song starts that way. And most artists would say, "Dude, that's weird." That's not cool. They said, but it became a huge moment in her show because she was willing to take the risk in rehearsal. The third part is the technical skills of my method. In other words, your songs don't sound. If you're going to make a living, you got to play 45 minutes to an hour and a half in an evening regularly, and if it can't be just one song. And if your songs don't sound the same, they shouldn't look the same. Now with a band, I will say this. It's easier because there's more moving parts. I can move the things around so that the songs don't look the same. But as a singer-songwriter, I still have tools I can use: a stool, a stand, a headset, the way I set it up, how I interact with the audience, how I use the stage. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, I'm stuck behind the mic stand because I just play guitar and stand behind the thing." Well, you're behind the stand when you're singing. But what about a musical interlude? You can walk to a certain part of the stage, what I call change the pressure on the audience. And here's where a lot of people make mistakes, particularly not just singer-songwriters, everybody. They allow the song to be in control, not the artist. So, for example, if the way you wrote it or recorded it was an 8-second intro because you want to get it on radio, all I do is rearrange the song. So we have a 20, 30, 40-second intro that's more captivating. And then instead of rushing back to the microphone when it's time to sing the first verse or something, we will land on what they call in Nashville, the root chord. And then no one's sitting there going, "Oh no, the song's not starting yet," because they don't know your song probably. But you finish the chord, you land on that chord, and you walk your way back to the microphone. You stay on the chord. You don't go through a chord progression, so you can start the song whenever you want to sing.
That's so cool.
And you create anticipation for it too. Mm-hmm. You can use dynamics by bringing the song down and getting ready to go up and sing. And that's just one thing in terms of a technical thing that you could do, and an arrangement thing that you could do to create anticipation in your show. So there's technical things you can do on stage. That's the third part. And the fourth part is what I call, in the context of a house, we got the plan, we laid the foundation. This third part is the materials, the tools, and the skill, the physical things on stage that you need to do. And then the fourth part is, after the house is built, you move in. So how do you bring your personality to the show? That's what an artist does. Well, there's two things here that we do. It's called developing themes and characters. I look at a song as a, what do you call it? A commercial, we'll say, on TV. It's a real quick thing. I look at a CD as kind of like a TV show, a 30-minute TV show. I look at a concert as a movie. And as a writer, the way you write for those three things are different. There's similarities, but they're things that have to change. For example, like I just said, for a movie, and that's what I put together in terms of on stage, I developed the themes. So you've written a song, let's say, for radio, and it's got a cool little melodic or a cool groove or an awesome harmony. So what I will do is develop those. I won't just do it once. For example, here's a perfect example. How many times, if you're honest, songwriters, is your bridge actually the strongest part of the song? And it's, maybe it's 20%, I don't know, 15, 20, 25%, but you've got this really strong bridge. But because the songwriting rules are you play the bridge once, then you walk out on stage and you play it once, and people don't even pick up on it. Your best part of your song you played once because. Why? Because those are the rules. No, live, you develop those moments that are awesome in the song, and you milk them. You develop them into some musical moments, and then you also leave space in your show when you're standing on stage for your personality to come out. And if the song is in control, and many people, the song is in control and they can't let their personality come out. So you have to rearrange the song and the evening so that people who come to see you get those magical moments and your personality. And then they'll walk away as a fan. And then, to be crass, then your merch will go up. I can say this, that, and this is going to be hard to believe, but I know people have a hard time believing this, but when I worked with Taylor the first time, we spent 5 days working on her show. And the second half, I got her at the middle of a tour. The second half of the tour, after we're spending 5 days on the same song she played the first half, but we created moments, her merchandise went up 600%.
Wow.
And the same songs. What we did was we worked the method. We rearranged the songs, we did the physical things, and her merch went up 600%. Wow. I wish I would have got a point on that.
Dude, don't you wish you could go back and renegotiate that? Wow, that's fantastic. Well, that is a whole masterclass, just what you just said. Everything you said, the four primary pieces, pillars of your method, how you work with it. And I can't believe the similarities between what you do, with artists and the live music production and what I'm trying to do with songwriters. I know I've said that a couple of times in the show already, but it is amazing because, and I have we have a video series that you can buy, but I also use that as the basis of our 8-week boot camp that I'm working with songwriters one-on-one, and that's my time to help them try to identify these things. And what I'm fascinated with in our module 2, we have a tool called the Song Builder's Blueprint. And so you talked about the architectural analogy for what you do, and it's really the same. And I say often that songs are assembled, not written. And they're really put together. And I'd like to pick up for just a moment on what you said about at the end of the process, helping them to bring their personality into it. Because one of the most wonderful parts of what I do is when I see a songwriter suddenly discover who they are as a songwriter. Because up to that point, they've been really consumed with the nuts and bolts of it. Yeah. They don't quite get how you structure, and when we deal with all the skill set. But the entire time I'm trying to nudge them toward the mindset of coming into their own artistry as a songwriter. And I've seen that happen with quite a few of the writers I've worked with during my whole career, but even recently with our Nashville Christian Songwriters work, I'm watching. We're in the studio now with several people just because they're getting it, and it's so powerful to see that. So how do you, going back to bringing their personality into it, how do you help them discover those nuances of personality to fill that house that you built?
Well, I think they already know who they are as people, but they've got to be given permission to be freedom on stage. And so I've got to leave space for their personality. I've got to leave, in the arrangements, the space for their personality. But then they've got to step up to the plate and walk through fear, give permission to be free on stage, that it's okay. Particularly as a Christian, we got this thing, humility. We got to be humble, but really, in most cases, it's false humility. It's not real humility. Actually, real humility is accepting the role you've been called to. If you're the front person, if you're the singer, if you're the person doing the ministry, you're called to do. There's no false humility. When the Pharisees came to Jesus, and no one had more authority than Jesus. What we're talking about is having that authority. But that comes from this humility, and the humility is when they came to Jesus and said, "Listen, tell us plainly, are you the Christ or not? They were saying, are you God in the flesh or not?" He didn't go, "Well, there's kind of three of us." No, he said, "Yes, it is as you say. I'm him." You listen to John, read through John, or I listen to John on Max McLean. I love listening to the Gospels, and he does not interpretation. His reading is so dramatic, but constantly Jesus is just saying, "No, I'm him. Follow me." A lot of people go, "What an arrogant guy." But he wasn't arrogant. He knew who he was. He accepted that role. And that's real humility, saying yes instead of shucking it off. And they crucified him for it. They won't crucify us, at least not yet in the States.
Well, they do on Facebook.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But no, you need real authority comes from humility, and you need to step up to the plate and have that freedom to be who you've been called to be. And the ones that do, but you also need the arrangements of the songs so that you're allowed to do that too. Because, and one of the ways, I'll give you a cheating hint. One of the ways, and we've done this in church, you've seen it a million times, but singer-songwriters don't always recognize it. You can, if you play a little music while you're chatting, if part of your deal is chatting, and it should be as a singer-songwriter, it's part of your skill set. If you don't want to be the front person, then that's fine. But if you're the front person, speaking to an audience is part of the gig. It's like being a quarterback on a team, throwing the football. You can't say, "Well, I want to be the quarterback, but I don't want to throw long passes." It's part of the role. So you accept that role or you shy away from that role. And you can sense when people shy away from the role. You can sense it in the audience. They're not in charge. They don't have that authority. And it's real humility to accept that role. And here's what I say to you. You're already getting criticized for doing nothing. You might as well get criticized for doing something.
That's great. So you were saying, as a singer-songwriter, what we've seen in church a million times is them not playing and chatting over music, or the better ones do it.
Well, what I'm saying is to get started, if you have problems with verbal skills, a little bit of music underneath, like a bit, like when someone's doing an altar call, those kind of things. But you chatting up a little bit while you play a chord or two, it takes away some of the awkward space,
right,
till you get comfortable with it.
Right.
Yeah. And some people have the gift of gab, and some people don't. But still, your role is you've got to communicate verbally with your audience at times.
Yeah.
And this is an easy way to ease into it.
Pre-planning, at least having some kind of idea what you're going to do with your song intro. But I've watched as you, inside of 3 minutes, have completely revolutionized the way somebody presented, just by, as you said earlier, extending an intro, rapping a little bit while they're rapping, as in chatting and talking and setting up. But then even walking away from the microphone as you chunk out a few chords and set up an intro, and not being stuck on the way you recorded it.
Correct. So, it's huge. Yeah, like I said, it's the recording or the single is a commercial. The album is I would say a sitcom, but a 30-minute show, and your movie, and all those writings, you develop those characters. If you watch commercials, they're like quick. They don't really give you the whole piece. They just give you little pieces. You go into the sitcom thing. I like watching The Arrow. I don't know why. Yeah. But even the timing of that, it's kind of like they finish a sentence and literally the phone will go bing. They'll have to pick up the phone down to the next scene. In a movie, there would be space in between that. It would be more dramatic, but because the time crunch, you make things move along quicker.
Right.
But the idea really ultimately as a singer, songwriter, as a band, anyone who performs on a stage for more than 45 minutes or 45 minutes and more is to take them on a move, just like a movie. It's like you begin somewhere, you have a point to it, you end somewhere. And hopefully as Christians, it's to have an impact with the gospel in some way, shape, or form, and leave people with some nuggets, moments that they can relive in their lives forever and build them up, change their life, strengthen them, whatever your ministry is.
Right. So the song, even though eventually in the live production may be rearranged here or there, elongated intros or repeating bridges like you talked about earlier, the song itself is like a mini movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the foundational pieces that the live performance is going to be built on. So I try to teach that it's critical that you get those pieces right.
Yeah. No. Going to that, can I work a show is much better with a better song. By the grace of God, and I mean it, I've worked on over 100 number one songs, and here's an interesting thing though. But that's over 25 years, and that's with different genres from the Martins to Taylor to, Phillips, Craig and Dean, whoever. But on a live show, some of the best live songs are not necessarily the hits. They're themes in those songs that are not necessarily radio friendly, but in a longer space, in a visual space, even thinking about going to a movie, where do you watch a commercial, where do you watch a TV show, and where do you watch a movie? They're all different atmospheres. Maybe the commercial and the TV and the sitcom are all on the same, but a movie, you get dressed up, you go out, you might go out and eat. It's an experience. So oftentimes on some of these artists I work with, real often, there are moments all through most people's songs, but they're not always hit songs. So you can develop a fan base, you can develop a ministry from your live thing because your ministry is strong. Because you have those moments in those when you go out and perform that change lives. Because people go for three reasons. They want to be captured and engaged. And this is what you need to know whether you're doing it, Mr. Singer and Songwriter. You need to capture and engage an audience, create moments, and change their lives. And now, when I say captured and engaged, some of you might be thinking, oh, I do that. No, I'm not talking about you being captured and engaged. Of course you are. Your adrenaline's pumping. You're standing on stage. They're your songs. There's people clapping for you. Switch it. I'm talking about the audience being captured and engaged. And I'm not talking blowing things up and hair being orange and green and sliding across the stage. I'm talking about, is it captivating? Are there moments being created? Again, not for you, but for your audience. Do they walk away with, oh my gosh, I remember that? Not just, that was a nice song. And then the third part, are the lives being changed? Is your job is to create freedom in the room so the Spirit of God can move. And if you have an intentional ministry of what you're trying to accomplish, like a movie, the lives will change. And then I have just seen ministries grow. I'm working with people right now that when I met them 25 years ago, and they're still doing it, and you still don't know who they are, folks, but they're doing what they're called to do, and they have a ministry, and there you go.
Wow. I'm blown away. Now, in another place when I heard you talking about this, captivating an audience or capturing an audience, you talked about bringing them present for that space of time, letting go of the
worry about the checkbook and the kids and the business, but being fully present and that changing their lives.
Yeah. Well, the idea is capture and engage is people are present. They're not thinking about kids, keys, cars, insurance. They're completely present with what you're doing on the stage because the material's strong. It's captivating visually. And I know you're a singer-songwriter, so I'm not talking about sliding across the stage, running across the stage, but I'm talking about in singing songwriting. If you got one instrument, it's a subtler thing. It's like a movie. Instead of being Transformers or Star Wars, it's a movie that has dialogue, and a glance of the eyes makes a difference between people. But also know this, and I want to kick you in the rear in love with this, singer-songwriters. You are the band. You are the band. And just getting around on chords is not enough. In my opinion, you need to know how to scratch. You need to know how to do. I mean, everybody in the planet loves rhythm. And so how often do you break a song down with just a scratch? All right, so here's what I want you to do. Put your hands together, and you're just scratching your strings. You're not playing chords. And again, it's not a big, now if it's a band, it'd be a drum set. Boom, boom. But because it's a subtler atmosphere, the scratching will accomplish exactly the same thing. Can you do a little musical soloing? And you don't have to be great at it, but just some tasty little things during an intro. Can you I just did this with a young guy the other day. I was in Colorado. He played his chords, and then he played just a teeny little lead, like did it, and then he sang it back to himself, and it was entertaining, and it was a cool little lick that people walked out going, did it? It wasn't that, it was catchier than that, but did it? It was a catchy little melody, and so I some ear candy. Anyway, so capture and engaging an audience is it's the writing, it's your playing. Again, you're the band. It's your visual, it's your content, and always the show, always the song is always the script. I'm not talking about changing who you are. Here's what the song is about. How do we make this completely present, captivating, interesting, whether it's sitting on a stool or whether it's putting a headset on and going out in the audience and getting people to sing, and everything in between.
Wow, that's powerful. And there's so many things that we could break off from there. But what I wanted to kind of key in on is that what you do is you help artists come present themselves into their program, into their show, into the worship leading, if you will, in my arena, into really being who they are in that space. Correct. So that it gives permission to everybody else to be present with them. And I think a lot of times, so you're helping them think. You're really helping them think. One of the things that I promote all the time with our writers and all of our free stuff that we do is that we teach songwriters how to think like songwriters.
Yeah.
And that it just feels like that's what you're doing.
That's what the method is all about. And there might be other methods or there might be other ways to do this, but I will say this. I've lived in New York, I've lived in LA, and I live in Nashville. And there's not anybody that I know that does this. There are people that do choreography, they do drama, they do dance, they're performance coaches, but that's why I call myself a live music producer, because it's a thought process that I have seen work. Let me put it this way. I have never, when it's done right, I've never seen it not work. That's all I can say. I've seen people that kind of do a little bit of it and it doesn't work as well as they'd like, but they never really dedicated themselves to the process. So it's kind of like, draw up a football play and it looks really good. And if you executed it would score a touchdown or it would gain a lot of yardage. But the right tackle missed his block and he got sacked, and somebody could say, well, that was a stupid play. No, it just wasn't executed properly. So it is a way to think. And once you start putting these things into play, I literally have thousands, well, probably, I don't know, 500 to 1,200 people that go, oh my gosh, this is my merch has gone up. I'm getting more bookings. I get them every day. I don't even know how many over the years.
Wow.
But they have to dedicate themselves to the process. That's why I wrote the book, so they could you underline stuff and review it, because there's no way. This took me 25 years to put together. Somebody can't read the book once and go, okay, I got it, or watch an hour and a half video of me teaching. I tell people, you actually have to be sick of my voice. Really, and I do have. I've huge stars come up to me and say, I'm standing on stage and your voice is in my head. I'm like, is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. So.
Yeah, but it has to be that way, and which kind of leads me to the next thing I was going to ask you about, because your deal about getting in the flow, getting into that zone, moving from confidence into authority really requires that repetition where it's, you talked about being, getting to the place where you're not thinking on stage.
Correct. Yeah, well, really, the way, we always talk about spontaneity, being led by the Spirit. The only way that I know to be really, really comfortable with something is do it over and over again and get it perfected to some degree, to where you're comfortable. You're no longer thinking about, if I'm going to hit a baseball, I can't be thinking all the time, keep your arm up, keep your arm up, keep your arm up. I need to practice, keep my arm up. But then when I get in the game, I just got to let it rip. And if I've done it enough, I'll be successful. But yeah, so many people, I can talk. So many people are afraid that what I do is make them have a canned show, and it's exactly the opposite. A canned show, a show that is really stiff that we've all seen, is a show that is unrehearsed, not rehearsed enough. The people on stage are thinking on stage, and that's a big mistake. Or it's a Disney thing where the kids are not really talented and they have to do it. Not that they have no talent, but they're not the artist. Actually, the artist of that show is the producer, and they're just following what he does or tells them to do, and they rehearse it over and over. But the real thing is to rehearse it enough to where you're so comfortable, even the verbal. If you're having a problem with the verbal, you write out what you're going to say, or then I move to bullet points, and then I move to, I know what I'm trying to accomplish, so then it becomes more freeform. But I got to start with something that I do regularly, and then that confidence comes from preparation. We're more confident, but to build on top of that comes authority. It's like a building block, and authority then comes from the inside out. What I was saying earlier about Jesus, your authority, you've got to sit there and wrestle and go, look at Ephesians, folks. Before the world was formed, God ordained you to stand on that stage. When you get a call from a church, and I don't care if there's 3 people there or 3,000, why did they call you? Do you believe in God's providence? Read Ephesians 1, read Ephesians 2. He gave us good works that we should walk in them. And it's no coincidence. So the question is, do you walk in with authority, which is real humility, not false humility, not aw shucks. This is your gig. If it is your gig, you better be prepared. And then you walk out in that authority that God has called you, in that power and that humility. And it's like a paradox. And then lives will be changed, and then they'll invite you back. This is how we build my thing. You'll get invited back, and they'll tell somebody else about you. And if you never get on radio or never get popular, it will build and build and build and build. And because lives are being changed, things are happening. I have a friend who it's called Pottersfield Ministries, and they do this thing on stage where he does pottery and his wife sings, and they've been doing it 30 years now. And they could do 1,000 dates a year if they wanted. And it's because They walk in that authority. They do what they do really, really well, and they take the time to do it, and they do it correctly. And rehearsing correctly is important. It's not just going in and going through the songs. It's being able to look at those songs, to rearrange them, how to present them. We help people with that. I've got an associate producer, Amy Walter, and she goes all around the world doing it. I do it all around the world. People come to Nashville, and we work one-on-one with people when someone's getting ready to go out and do something. Or we do workshops, got a website, all that stuff.
Yeah. Wow. It is amazing. It's astounding when you look at your resume and the people you've worked with, the places you've been, and the lives that have been touched through your method and through your life. And I think it's the same for songwriters, to any extent, or just, that continuum of what we would call success. If from very unknown people like you were referring to the Taylor Swifts of the world, which I think there's only one of her, but you have been able to through just that authority of who you are, touch millions of lives. And just one more question, okay, maybe two, because
no worries.
One of the things I think is so powerful about everything that you do is that you're helping artists create moments. And I know we probably touched on this in our earlier discussion, but I think it's worth coming back to, because a song is that moment, and the content with that song, in the song, is so important. And you said earlier, you can work so much better with a great song, and the interrelatedness of creating a moment. I have so many writers who they feel such, maybe it's just angst, I don't know. For them, it's passion. And people that have been abused, for instance, or people that have been divorced, or people that have had a lot of pain in their lives. And sometimes I think they confuse those things, and they feel that their pain or their angst is really their calling. And I think that they kind of confuse the desire to help others somehow. And one of the things that I try to do is get them beyond that. And I talk to them about redeeming their pain. Now, I have no idea if that relates to what you do with artists, but do you find sometimes that they're just a little confused about their function and what it is? Like when they say they want to fulfill their calling or tell their story. Do you hear my question? Yeah. It's kind of a convoluted question, but I think sometimes people are confused about those things.
Well, sometimes I think some people's stories is a ministry. Like, in fact, I just got off the phone yesterday with a guy, and he's got cancer, and he's got this thing online called God's Got This, and his story is encouraging a lot of people. Now, he actually is a singer-songwriter, come to think of it. I haven't heard his songs in years, but honestly, I don't go that far into. I just take what they're giving me and make it better. You remember that BASF commercial years ago? We don't make the stuff, we just make it better. That's kind of my deal. So I'm hoping that when someone comes to me, they're sorting that out, And part of let's face it, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I'm still sorting it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, it's life. It's part of the journey. So I've helped some ministries where dealing with some issues, but it can be a downer. And you're right. It cannot be the whole night of woe is me. I don't want to go watch Eeyore perform all night.
Yeah, and that's really what I was kind of getting at, because a lot of the writers that I deal with, both my clients and then just people casually, is that they're always writing about their pain over and over and over. But the successful artists, they really don't go out and parade their pain night after night in front of people.
No,
right?
I think you would put. There's nothing wrong with a little section where you can deal with reality, but everyone, and this is the hard part with all of us, because of our sin, because of our selfishness, we think we're the only one that has gone through that stuff, but not true. And so, we linger on that too long. It's like having a conversation with somebody who, unless they're your best friend or, it's a ministry or counseling thing. I agree with you. It can get way too heavy. And I've got a couple artists that I have worked with in the past that were so heavy, and I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but they're not around. And yet they're really good artists, well written, but it was just always pain, angst,
Right.
pain, anger. And I think getting past that, particularly in a show, again, just like in a Disney movie, you've got the tension, but there's always the release into, the release to me is God's grace. Eventually, at the end of the night, I want to walk out knowing God loves me. I get that every night, and I go through all the stuff, the story to get there. But anyway, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I was really trying to use you to make a point to my writers then. That's what I was doing.
I can feel that. And
I was manipulating you into one of my pet peeves with my writers.
I get it.
I was doing. Well, what are those moments, Tom? Phenomenal life, phenomenal career. What are those moments, or when is that moment when you go, wow, what is happening right now is making me so happy?
Yeah, it's changing my life. It's moving me. Well, some of them are lyrical, a poignant message, obviously, as a writer. But let's face it, every song you write is just not life-changing in the sense of, so when I look at a song, I look at songs where lyrics are king. I look at songs, king meaning that's the moment I'm trying to pull out. I look at songs where the music is actually king. Well, wow, that's a very cool little rhythm or riff thing going on. So I bring that out to the audience. Or a vocal thing, just a pretty voice. And it doesn't even have to be extraordinary voice. It just has to be done in a right way in the show to touch people. Because let's face it, I was just listening to the prayer last night with Bocelli and what's her name? She's out in Vegas all the time.
Celine.
Yeah. And, just the voices alone take me. I seriously was in my backyard just praising God. And the words were there, but really it was their voices that were the king of that whole thing. It's a beautiful song, and I've heard other people sing it. In fact, I heard somebody sing it at an event just last week, and it didn't touch me nearly as much because it was because of the voices. So I look at each song and go, okay, what is the moment inside the song? And all I can do is use my own discernment to go, man, this part right here is just awesome. So let's develop it, or let's strip it down, or let's showcase it, or if it's a message song, the story beforehand, if I have the gift of gab to set it up. I can't set up every song, but there's one or two crucial times in the night where you need to, dig in a little bit and say, okay, here's So when the song comes around and the message is presented, and usually that's, I hate to say it, it's a song that is not a hit, or because the message is pretty clear when the song speaks for itself. This is one where maybe you've taken some bunny trails, or it's a little deeper or whatever, but the story will set it up and help create the moment. When the line comes, then the line means more. But those are the moments, fun moments. You get into worship. Worship doesn't always have to be, it can be celebratory. That's where I will oftentimes put a headset on somebody. Not the whole night. I don't want Chinese water torture people to death, but put a headset on and go to the edge of the stage and lead sides and singing. It's like a good meal. The main course, as a singer-songwriter, is a song. But I don't care how good the main course is. If I go to Ruth Chris, after 5 or 6 bites, I want a salad. I want a drink. What makes a great meal is that the salad is great, the bread is great, the drink is great, and the steak is great. And I know I'm always coming back to the steak because that's the main course. But I need to get away from that at times to come back to it. Otherwise, it's just redundant, and I don't care how good it is. After 3-4 songs, I'm done.
Right. And we all would be very happy if our songs were Ruth Chris caliber.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what we're trying to do, folks. We're trying to help you get there. Well, when you look back on your career, what are those 1 or 2 or 3 moments that you're proudest of in a humble Christian way?
Honestly, it's something that God, the only time in my life God, when I say answered prayer, he always is answering prayer. But this was one thing that happened 23 years ago. I spoke at the Gospel Music Association event, GMA, big event at the time, if you recall. That was fun. That and Estes Park were just awesome. And I wish we'd get back there to some degree. And there were thousands of people, folks, that came out to this, and it was great networking, great fellowship, great music, just everything. Anyways, spoke at the event. There's probably 600-700 independent artists that I spoke to, and I was living in LA at the time, and a girl called me and said, "Listen, I work with World Vision. Would you have lunch with me? I want to talk to you about something." So I did. Went out to lunch with her, and she said, "Listen, you speak to more artists than anybody that I know of. You work with more artists than anybody I know of, and I'm going to try and start this program to help these children." This was before there was any programs for artists. Actually, Compassion International had a very loosey-goosey one at the time. This was 20-some years ago. Anyways, long story short, she said, "Listen, can you recruit artists that will help these children? We have literally millions of children that are dying from silly things like diarrhea." And I said, and I will pray about it. Because I looked at my calendar that year, and I was on the road 224 days. I didn't have kids at the time. And my wife went with me quite a bit. But I said this prayer: "Lord, if you want me to do this, I will, but I'm busy. But I'll do it, but boy, am I busy, Lord." Long story short, I had a dream. I dreamed that I died and was coming up to the kingdom of heaven, and I was met by thousands of kids that thanked me for recruiting these artists because they'd heard the gospel and got, Matthew 25, "Did you feed me? Did you clothe me? Did you visit me when I was in prison? You have a cup of water in my name. You'll not lose your reward." It was the clearest answered prayer I've ever had in my life. I've never had a prayer that clear answered. I wish, should I marry this woman? No, got to do that by faith. Should I move to Nashville? No, got to do that by faith. This was a clear answer to prayer. And so we started this artist program to help kids, and I've been doing it now 25 years with multiple charities. I work with Prison Fellowship, Food for the Hungry, Child Fund, gosh, I can't remember, Holt International, which does Winter Jam, Kids Alive, Project AK-47. And here's the beautiful part. This is what I really like about it, because we worked this up 25 years ago. We went into meetings and said, "Listen, this money is coming to help get these kids from advertising dollars. So we need to pay the artist. A labor is worthy of their wages. If we're going to put an ad in a newspaper or in a magazine, Christianity Today, or put an ad on TV, we have to pay for it." So here are these artists that are out there pounding the pavement, trying to minister and generate an audience, and they have to pay gas to get there. They have to. Their love offering is usually not a lot of love. So we created an artist program that is a win-win situation. The money is sent to the right place. We give the artist about $100 for every sponsored child. But that artist, what people don't understand is there's a thing called long-term donor value. And that means that when you get a kid sponsored at a concert, that person averages $1,500 to $2,000 in giving, because it's a monthly giving thing and they'll do it for years. So basically, I'm giving you $100. you're giving me $1,500 to $2,000. It's money well spent. When you hear about people that give 100% of everything, it's just not true. Because you can't. You got to have gas. Somebody's got to pay for something. Somebody's got to pay to be heard. A pastor gets paid to preach. So if it was done irresponsibly, then it would be a problem. But these are awesome organizations. So I have a place called livemusicgives.com that has forms. I'm looking for people who are doing 30 dates or more in a year. And what I mean by dates, they don't need to be big dates. It can be a coffee house, a women's retreat, a church service, a school. But I have indie artists that have been with me for years making, this sounds terrible, but $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $110,000 a year because they're bringing me thousands of sponsors. It's a win-win situation. It's their calling. They are into it. So that's the thing I'm the most proud of, to be honest with you. The other thing I'm most proud of, I try to treat people honestly. I know I'm sitting there rehearsal and I'm tired, and I could skip on an idea that's in my head that would make the show a bit better, and I can't recall a time ever going, I'm tempted, just let it go. But I can't. No, because I know I can make it better and make a bigger impact. I'm proud that I'm still around. And that is by the grace of God. But I know, this, John, because we've been in the industry a long time. 80-90% of them are gone at our age, and it's a new generation, and I'm still speaking into that generation, and that is, and I'm trying to bring the gospel both to mainstream and to Christians, and to do better work as Christians. Like Winter Jam has become quite a cool thing. And the shows have raised the level. Through that whole thing itself, being a part of that, I bet I don't even know, well over 1 million people saved, and probably 500,000 kids sponsored. Yeah. And I know the guy, Eddie Carswell, as you said earlier, his heart, he wouldn't have, that is his heart. Now, he's a good business guy, but I was there day one, Greenville, South Carolina. And I know what his heart is, and that is to bring the gospel. And I'm proud to be a part of that.
That's fantastic. Man, that's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Well, what's next for you, Tom?
It's interesting you say that, because it is a new chapter. I can feel it. I bought a house in Fort Myers. It's been a nightmare. I bought it 3 years ago, and I've been ripped off 3 times. But God is good. After 3 years, I'm finally getting to move in this place. And I got a house up here still in Nashville. But the idea for buying it down there was I want to create more content, because working one-on-one, I like it. But I can't do it as much as I've been doing it. I think I'd make a bigger impact by writing, doing the DVDs, getting more, teaching at more events. Next year, it looks like I'm going to try and do a lot of Europe as a teacher. And most of these are mainstream, but I've taught at Hillsong, Gateway, Christian Musician Summit, all these. I teach it at Immerse next week, which is the GMA event. Right. I've taught at that for 29 years now.
Wow, that's great.
So I want to do more teaching, and I want to speak into people's lives with more materials and books and podcasts and stuff like that. Excellent. To inspire people. But I just want to slow down a bit on the one-on-one, because going into rehearsal for 8 hours a day, sometimes a week, 2, 3 at a time, traveling, get a little tired. Yeah. Well, you don't look any worse for the wear.
Oh, thanks. And amazing life and ministry and career. So many people, again, for about the 8th time in this podcast, you've touched so many people, and it's amazing. Thanks. You've got your book. You have your DVDs there at TomJacksonProductions.com, right?
Yeah, you can go to TomJacksonProductions.com or OnStageSuccess.com.
Okay, right.
And I do have worship DVDs. I have All Roads Lead to the Stage, 7-set DVD series that I recorded a few years ago, and the book. Quite a few products that if you can't afford me or that's the place I would start. I would start with the book, and the DVDs. And here's how I look at it. And this is what I was saying earlier. This stuff is an investment. It really is. The book, it's in colleges, and Liberty uses it. Berkeley has used it. South Plains College has used it. Others, and so it's pricey, like a college book should be. But so it's $99, 432 pages. But I tell people this: yes, it's just not a book to read once, like a fiction thing. It's a workbook, and if you're playing and you have CDs to sell, let's say you sell your CDs for $10. If something in that book, this is how you should look at it. If something in that book gets you to sell 10 more CDs, that's $100. You've broke even. Everything after that is gravy. And I promise you, just the set list alone will send your merch up a huge percentage. We do this with people with house concerts. You got one that bought the book, had been averaging 4 or 5, maybe on a good night, 7 CD sales, and now they're averaging between 30 and 45 a night. And that's at onstagesuccess.com. Or if you're interested in the tour support or the support for artists, that's livemusicgives.com.
That's fantastic. And you have an associate.
I do. Amy. Yep. She's been with me 10 years. She knows her stuff inside. She's done many artists, Sidewalk Prophets, artist after artist after artist that she's worked with too.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Wow. Well, this has been rich. So many amazing things. Is there any parting words you have for us before we kind of shut her down today?
Be persistent. Be good at what you do. Follow your calling. Listen to your instinct, and don't be afraid to take risks. Risks is where your personality, and that's where special things happen. What I mean by that simply is those thoughts that come into your head that you think, wow, that would be a good idea. And then within that quick a thought, you go, oh, no, that'd be goofy. Or, oh, I'm afraid to do that. Or those are the ideas to follow, because that's what I do in rehearsal, and almost 100% of the time do the right thing. So be willing to take risks.
That is rich right there. It's a great postscript for our podcast today. So Tom Jackson, man, thanks so much for being here. Once you get your house finished down in Fort Myers and you get your product, your content developed, we'll have you back on, and we'll just keep blowing this thing up, man. Thank you so much. Well, all right, there you have it. Tom Jackson on our show today. And I want to be the first to admit that I totally butchered the technical side of this podcast. So, Tom, if you and your clientele, your social hear this, I'm so sorry. And we'll get another run at this thing, and we'll get a real tech person in here to make sure that I don't mess it up. But anyway, great content today. Amazing stuff. Amazing man. Amazing career. And so you just be sure and check out all of his products and take advantage of some great coaching with Tom Jackson or with his associate, Amy Walter. Well, don't forget that we have other episodes of the Song Revolution podcast right here on iTunes. You can check us out on SoundCloud or YouTube, and you can also keep up with us through the Successful Christian Songwriters Facebook group. If you're not a part of that, you want to be part of that growing community right there on Facebook. Just search for Successful Christian Songwriters, and we do have our new membership that is open and up and running and fantastic. You don't want to miss that. We've got an introductory 1-year offer for $149, and you get fresh content every month. You get 2 free song critiques. You get a whole bunch of great stuff just for being a member of Nashville Christian Songwriters. We also have our amazing Nashville Christian Songwriters. We're calling it Successful Christian Songwriters 2017 Conference, happening here October 5 and 6 this fall. Registration is opening soon. We're going to have group discounts, and this is going to be a conference like no other. Great breakouts, great panels with industry personnel, songwriters, artists. It is going to be incredible. Yours truly will be there, and I hope to meet you this October 5 and 6 right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks for joining us today on the Song Revolution podcast, and we'll see you next time. In the meantime, join the Song Revolution.
Thanks for being here today for the Song Revolution podcast from Nashville Christian Songwriters. We exist to empower you and to bring you some of the greatest inspiration, insights, and important people from the Christian music world to help you write your best and to be heard as the songwriter that you were born to be. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us over on Twitter and Instagram, and connect with us through our Facebook group called Successful Christian Songwriters. Until next time, I'm John Chisholm calling you to a song revolution.